Hi, my name is Noel Davis with World Composting, and today we're going to go over our African Nightcrawler bin that has hamster bedding in it. Now, we have been adding food to this because I've run out of hamster bedding to add, but I do have some I can add today. And with that, I just want to say it's been 19 days since our last update, so it's been a little bit longer than I really wanted to go, but I haven't had much opportunity to work with my worm bins lately, and I've kind of slowed down a little bit. Now, the other thing I want to mention, and this is something that others have mentioned to me about their African Nightcrawlers, and that is them escaping from their systems. And I had not had an issue with this until recently. I've been finding a lot of dead, really long worms. You know, when they're this long, I pretty much know that they're African Nightcrawlers when they're, 5-6 inches long. I found a lot of them dead on the floor, surprisingly, around the system, which means something is off. And I'm not sure which system they're coming out of, but it's something that I'm hoping that adding some more bedding and maybe adding a little bit more food to these systems, I'm wondering if they're running out from how many are, especially in this system right here that has the hamster bedding in it. I haven't added hamster bedding in a while. I added food the last couple times, but maybe it's just not enough for them and they're whipping through it too quickly. So with that, let's take a look at this system and let's see how it's doing, and we'll add some more fresh hamster bedding, but I think we're going to add very little because I think I'm going to end this system much sooner than expected because I just don't have the amount of material needed to really keep up with this. But also, I really think I want to use these worms with them escaping, I think. I really want to start using these worms in some of my time-lapse videos and see if I can put it in an environment where they can really work on something, but also you can see it in that slow motion type, or I should say fast motion type, over long periods of time, 30 to 50 days. So with that, let's take a look at the system. Let's see how it's doing. We'll add maybe a little bit of bedding material so they have some more food in there just to keep going. But we're going to probably let them finish up the system after that, and we're going to move on to the next thing with this. So with that, let's take a look at the system. Alright, so just to start here, you can see that this is where we did our last feeding here, what that tape is. Our last date was 1/25/22. I'm going to go ahead and replace that right now with this 2/13 sticker right there. There we go, that's today's date. And let's move this down and let's start looking at the system. Now again, just so everyone remembers, I am using the left glove for this, which is only used in my bins that have the hamster waste in it, or the bedding. Oh, let me just shake this off a little bit. And on the top here, let's just start with this right here. We've got one worm right there in the center. And I'm seeing quite a few baby worms on here. I mean, you can really see them over here in this corner. Let's just see if we can get this a little closer to the camera here. Right over here, there's a lot of baby worms on this film. So, I mean, just looking from what I can see, whoops, hold on a second here. Let me not lose it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. There's probably, and actually there's more on this side too, which I missed. There's probably about 50 on here, 50 babies. So this system is doing phenomenal with growth. I'm really impressed with that. But look at this right here on the top. We got a bunch of worms right here. So they're looking really good right here. They're not quite as active. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of white worms on here, surprising. I don't really see pot worms typically on these things. There's actually a little bit of mold over here in this corner too, right there. But if you could see right over here, let's just see here if I can pick this up and kind of hold this up a little bit to you. I'm going to just dump off, actually there's a big hole in the center. I didn't even realize that. Just see right here, if you can see, right over here, just make sure that's in view. It looks like there's like small white worms over here, and I'm seeing some, it looks like maybe fungus gnats on here too, but and there are mites on here, but I'm seeing these tiny white worms, which I'm not used to seeing in my systems on anything other than something that's kind of acidic. And by the way, there's a ton of baby worms on here as well. You can see some right there. So they're doing phenomenal in this system. Just lots and lots and lots of baby worms, lots of reproduction. We're going to fold this over, and we're going to go ahead and move this out of the system just for now. As you can tell, this is starting to dry out a little bit. All the systems that are sitting over here on this heating rack, I've noticed, are drying out. I did lower the temperature a little bit. I think they were getting a little bit too warm. It's hard to adjust that. But for right now, this is going to need some moisture. You can tell this is overly dry in this corner. But let's just dig this up real quick. You can see that this is overly dry, and they're going to need some water. Normally I've been checking on these once a week, so I've been adding water a little bit more frequently, but this piece, all this paper right here is dry. I have a worm over here. Doesn't look very... I think this one right here is not moving around all that much. So I'm wondering if these were the ones that were starting to escape, and I'm wondering if it's from moisture. And again, I think I had the heater up a little bit too high, which I mentioned with the other African Nightcrawler bins that I looked at. I think it was drying out the system. So let's just, actually, you know what? Let's just check this center section here. And there's very little, you could tell. Let's just see. Oh, look at this. Look at all the worms over here. So there's a ton of them in this system. And this system is just doing phenomenal as far as worms. I mean, even all sizes. I mean, you can see right here, we've got, you know, this little guy right there compared to some of the other larger ones we've got off to the side. It's doing phenomenal, but there's definitely a lack of food in here. And it definitely feels very dry. So, but the worms, I mean, like, even over here, but you can just see right here, I mean, you just got tons and tons of worms. So they're doing really, really well. Almost all the bedding is gone. More worms over on this side of it. You can see right there. But they're a little bit lethargic, and I bet that's because of moisture. And I bet that's why some of them are starting to escape onto the floor here. I'm seeing a little fly in there of some sort too. So we are going to add some water to this. We're going to get this moisture going, but I think we are going to add just a little bit more food for them with some, I do have a little bit of, there you go, there's a nice lively worm down there in the corner. This is what I normally expect to see when I pull up these African Nightcrawlers. They seem to just want to move like crazy, and some of the ones that are a little bit more lethargic worry me a little bit. I'm wondering if they're starting to dry out in the system because of the heat. It was a little bit too hot for them in here. And as I said, I did lower those temperatures, so we should get back to a better temperature. But what we're going to do in here is we're going to go ahead and add a little bit more of this material. I really feel that these shavings are starting to break down a little bit, but we're just going to add a little bit more in here. I've got my bag right here. I'm just going to pour some of them in. I'm going to reach in, just grab it just a little bit, because as I said, I sort of want to end this one, so I don't want to add too much. There we go. Just a little bit. So there's some fresh stuff in here for them to go towards. We're going to go ahead and bury that in here. You can see this is starting to get really kind of chunky and clay-like in some areas, really, like especially these end pieces right here. Look at this worm pile. It's just such a great sample of worms in here. And I think what we're going to do is we're also going to add to this system, while we're here, some of our crushed crab and eggshell. We're just going to sprinkle this on top all over here. Just add in a bunch of this. Kind of give them some more grit in here. I'm worried that the grit's running a little bit low. And now we're going to go ahead and add in some water. We're going to add in quite a bit. And this has my water with the BTI mix in it. But hopefully this will give them something to soak up here. And they maybe will stop leaving the system. Now I have found, I know I showed some worms that have escaped and died on the sides. You know, I did find more than that and earlier this week, but it was all of a sudden. It wasn't like, oh, you know, it's been happening for a while. It was all of a sudden I started finding them. And you can see some of these are being touched by this water and they're not moving around too much, which is what really worries me. I would expect these worms to be sort of flying around, and instead they're sort of, I mean, this one, I don't know if this one's alive or not. It's alive, but just barely. So I'm hoping that this will help a little bit, kind of get some more moisture in here, get this to be a little bit better, and hopefully they'll start working on this fresh material over here, and then that lower heat will help them a little bit too. So we're just going to kind of move this around a little bit. Now, with that, let's put, I mean, this feels a little bit muddy now, but I'm okay with that. I'd rather it be a little bit muddy and them do better than them do worse. In fact, I'm debating whether I should even turn the heat mat off, because we've had some really hot temperatures comparatively. It has been up in the 50s, almost 60 degrees here during the winter, which is kind of unusual. But, you know, I haven't really changed much as far as what I'm doing with these systems. You know, I'm still just keeping it the same way with the heat mat, and I think it might be a little bit too much heat. Even though it's got the sensor on there, it's just, it doesn't really cool down enough. So there we go. We're going to put that back on though. We're going to let them go. We'll see how these guys do in the future. And hopefully we're going to kind of wrap up this system in the next couple weeks. And we'll start moving these worms out into a fresh system with fresh bedding for a time-lapse video. So thank you for watching. We're going to come back next time probably and finish this up in a week or two. And then we'll we'll keep some of the worms in here, keep this going a little bit, where we're going to pull out a lot of them so we can use the time lapse. So thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please let me know down in the comments.